Welcome, Reverend Dr. Allan Boesak. It's great to have you. Great to be able to chat with you.
Good morning, Clarence. Good morning to your listeners and those who are viewing this, as you said, on Facebook. I must apologize for my more than usual scratchy voice. I have been speaking all over the place over the past week. I preached in Marikana yesterday on the 10th anniversary of the massacre. So it's been lots of talking. So if my voice sounds a little bit bad, please forgive me.
And I'm not going to take it for granted that everybody knows who is the Reverend Dr. Allan Boesak. So just a little bit of history, and you'll find out exactly how he squares up on a whole lot of matters with this history. Born in Kakamas, and of course active in, is it the coloured branch of the Nederduitse Gereformeerde Kerk?
That's what you would call it, yeah, the NG Kerk, it was called in those days, the Dutch Reformed Mission Church, yeah.
Okay, liberation theologian, elected as the president of the World Alliance of Reformed Churches in 1982, a position he held till 1991. Of course, rose to prominence during the 80s as an outspoken critic and opponent of the National Party's politics, and played a major anti-apartheid activist role as a patron of the United Democratic Front from 1983 to 1991. 1991, the Reverend Dr. Allan Boesak was elected chairman of the Western Cape region of the African National Congress. Then we've got 2004, came out in favor of same-sex marriage in South Africa a year before the country's constitutional court ruled that the denial of marriage to gay people was discriminatory and violated the country's constitution. Also came out voicing views on the Zimbabwean crisis, calling on citizens of the stricken country to rise up in opposition to President Robert Mugabe and his authoritarian ZANU-PF ruling party. He also censured Thabo Mbeki for failing his role as the South African development community's official mediator to heed the church's call for a peacekeeping force. So that is the Reverend Dr. Allan Boesak over the past couple of decades, very active on the political front and other fronts in South Africa and Southern Africa. We asked you to come and chat with us today because of some comments that you made on Lester Kivitz's show, and we were quite stunned by some of those comments. So we're gonna play your comments, and then we're going to interrogate those comments that we so badly want to understand. So let's take a listen to what the Reverend Dr. Allan Boesak told Lester Kivitz, I think it was last week, right here on Cape Talk.
People must not think that I am running for anything in political office at all. I'm not joining any political party. The ANC will not ever see me as a member again. Neither will the other parties, the DA and all of that. I think they are all as corrupt as can be. I've got to know Lindiwe Sisulu. Now I know her personally a little better. And may I say that this woman is a most extraordinary leader. South Africa should go on its knees to beg this woman.
It sounds like you're endorsing her for some sort of elective position in December.
I want her to be the president.
I want her to be the president of the African National Congress. You continue to say, and by implication, the president of South Africa. And then you sent a whole lot of us looking for what makes Lindiwe Sisulu so stand out, of course, other than her surname. And there's very little that we found. You talk of her as some great leader. Can you please enlighten us where that leadership is manifested?
Well, thank you for that question, Clarence. I am impressed with Lindiwe Sisulu because of the way she has exhibited leadership in all of the positions that she has been placed to serve the people. And I mentioned only a few. She is the only one, or one of the very few, let me be fair, one of the very few against whom not a single black mark can be ticked in terms of corruption. She's one of the very few who have actually acted against corruption. When she was placed in water affairs and sanitation and so on, she went there, she discovered corruption, she had that investigated internally. The report came out. She followed it up with an external report. She then acted upon those people who were found to have done wrong things. She suspended them. She asked the NPA to lay charges against them. And what happens next is that President Cyril Ramaphosa takes her out of that position because those people that she had exposed happened to be his friends. He put another minister in there, Mr. Nchunu, I think his name is. That man stopped the whole investigation. He lifted the suspension of those that Lindiwe Sisulu had suspended. He then, Cyril Ramaphosa then gave MPA instructions to withdraw those charges. So nothing has come of that on the one thing that she has acted upon. Another thing that has impressed me, though, is that when she was minister and dealt with the Palestinian issue and Gaza blew up, she was the one who acted upon, according to African National Congress decisions and the resolutions. And she recalled our ambassador, she called in the Israeli ambassador, she wanted to downgrade the embassy to punish them, to show the Israeli government that this government believes that an apartheid government with its murderous policies against the Palestinians cannot be treated as if there nothing is happening. So she is strong, she gets hit on that thing, and she still continues. And when she dared to begin to speak up, to try and give some leadership in a situation where we have no leadership at all, and she talked about the difficulties with our constitution and the issues that she saw that the country needs to think about and discuss, people came down on her in a way that has completely stunned me. I mean, as if they were unloading buckets of bile against her with unsubstantial things, and they were so intent on just insulting her. They were talking about her nails, they were talking about her hair, they were talking about her wearing high heels, all of that sexist, patriarchal stuff, but nothing substantially engaging her views. And I saw how she got through that thing, remaining strong, standing on her points, trying to respond every single time with logic. That's the kind of thing that impresses me. I must say that if I look at the ANC leadership today and I hear former President Thabo Mbeki, who says that he presses upon the African National Congress that it is absolutely crucial that this time they make the right choice in terms of their leadership, I say Thabo Mbeki is absolutely right. We must make the ANC must make the right choice of leadership so that we as a country can have a better choice than we have right now.
Okay, so if we look at her controversies, and they're pretty kind of generally written about, and it doesn't necessarily, I don't know what her nails look like, so I wouldn't be able to comment on that. It revolves around the N2 Gateway projects. It revolves around Paul Ngubeni, and he comes up quite often in relation to the ex-public protector, in relation to the president of the Western Cape High Court. It comes up in relation to overusing executive jet flights during a tenure as Minister of Defence and Military Veterans. It comes through with the appointment of Menzi Simelane. So, yeah, she's not necessarily been stand out in terms of how we are seeing her. You've mentioned two things that don't obviously appear on the controversy kind of list that I have in front of me. But you've always been and have been of late in the past couple of years outspoken on ANC politics, and not just about commission of certain acts. We're talking corruption that we've seen in the newspaper every single day for the past couple of years, but also the omission, people not necessarily taking a strong stance. And we're talking about the political elite not taking a strong stance to what's happening within the ANC and within the parastatals. And she certainly hasn't taken a strong view, especially on corruption. She's been in government since 1994. She's been an active cabinet minister since 2001. And again, maybe not implicated through commission, but implicated by omission, not having a strong voice, standing with you on the kind of criticisms that you have leveled against the ANC over the past decade, especially?
Okay. Well, there are a few things there. And let me just say that one of the things that I find particularly distressing ongoing is the role that the media are playing in all of this. It is clear to anyone with a little bit of sense and logic that the media is, as the mainstream that I call the colonialist and the colonialist controlled media, mainstream media is solidly behind Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. And they are dead set on pushing this man, talentless and corrupt as he is, down the throat of South Africa's people. And as you can see how the media responded the moment she raised her hand and it became clear that she might become a credible threat to Mr. Ramaphosa's presidency, you see this kind of thing. That's the one thing. So remember always, there is a massive bias. Now, I think I can speak a little bit from experience on this because I was in those situations for years where the media is concerned. That's number one. Number two, I've heard about this thing from Mr. Paul Ngubane. I've also seen Mr. Paul Ngubane's response to that current committee that is talking about him. And he presents a totally different story. So it might be not such a bad idea for you to invite Mr. Paul Ngubane, let Mr. Paul Ngubane come and explain exactly what those situations are. I tend to believe Paul Ngubane more than I believe those baseless things that have been said about him, because in his very logically explanations that he put on paper to the committee, one can see where that goes. You talk about omissions. Well, I mean, I try to say to people two things here. The African National Congress is what has always been and is now an extraordinary patriarchal organization. You can take a look at the women. Who of those women, when they finally are put in a position, has ever dared to say anything against the mainstream way of things within the African National Congress? When you do get a woman who says, on this issue, I will do what my conscience tells me. I'm talking Gaza, I'm talking Palestine, I'm talking Israel. And on this issue, I'm going to act in accordance with the ANC's own policies of its conferences. Then you get her being slapped down. Cyril Ramaphosa listened to the Jewish lobby, called her in, took her away from that portfolio, reversed her actions, because a woman dare not stand up against the male domination in the African National Congress, even if that male domination is leading the country and the party to perdition. And so she has tried. And I just gave you the other example where she has tried. And when she now tries to raise a point, Cyril Ramaphosa comes out and says she's lying about things that they have talked about. So I think that if you take a look at the culture of the African National Congress, if you take a look at how the African National Congress has always treated women who are strong, who are resolute, women who are principled, like Winnie Mandela, to mention her, it's clear that they are not ready for women to take the leadership. The responses now, since the beginning of this year, since Lindiwe Sisulu has written that article, shows you. And with the collusion of the media, it seems as if Cyril Ramaphosa can do anything. It doesn't matter how harmful it is to the country and to his own, they will always protect him. But they will always look for those things. So if they can't find sins of commission, they go to sins of omission. Oh, you haven't done this, but you haven't done anything about that. That is not a completely fair way of treating things. I mean, you have to.
I'm talking about,
Yeah,
a
go ahead.
political elite that is so entrenched in the system. They cannot change. And I'm not making an exception here in respect of Lindiwe Sisulu. I'm chatting with the Reverend Dr. Allan Boesak, who endorsed Lindiwe Sisulu, Minister Sisulu, as ANC president, and by implication, South Africa's president, in a conversation last week with Lester Kivitz. So we're just trying to understand where the Reverend Dr. Allan Boesak's mind is at. So part of this establishment can't change it. And I've listened and engaged you on so many times. There was absolutely no ways that you were going to vote for the ANC. In fact, you said, voting for the ANC over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome is the height of insanity. It sounds now as if you're going to vote for this very organization that you've been, talking against for the past decade, especially.
Well, yes, Clarence, that's also a very good question. I mean, I'm being caught, and I think all South Africa is being caught in a bit of a dilemma here. We have a political system. The political system gives us very little choice. You do not vote for an individual candidate, how charismatic and gifted and talented and committed that individual is. You have to vote for a party. So you either vote ANC or you vote DA or you vote EFF. If you vote EFF, you get Julius Malema. You have no choice in that, and so it is a kind of a truncated democracy that we have, and only when that party wins, then the country may express its desire whether the president of that particular of the country, if that party can get all of the support it needed to get over that line. And so that's your situation. I'm looking at that, and I think the ANC, I see those projections, but I think it's mostly wishful thinking that the ANC will, as a matter of fact, lose the next general election in 2024. That we are going to be pushed into a kind of a coalition situation. I don't believe that's going to happen, but you can, and I do not want that coalition situation. That's not my political view and wish for South Africa. I think it's going to be disastrous. But my thing is, so if you want the ANC to win, you look at, does the ANC, I said in George with the Steve Biko lecture not so long ago, the only reason I would ever hope to vote for the African National Congress is when somebody like Lindiwe Sisulu has become the leader of the African National Congress. Nobody else. There's not even a second for me. If that does not happen, I will not vote for the ANC, but that means that the country will go down the drain. If Cyril Ramaphosa remains in power for one more day, the disaster that will hit this country, it will be worse than the disaster that we have now.
The Reverend
I
Doctor...
do not have any faith. I have any faith in any of the other political parties. So for me, if Lindiwe Sisulu is not elected, there's nothing I can do about that. I'm not a member. I will not be a delegate. I do not know. But if she is not elected, then I will say the last hope that the ANC might have had to get votes from people like me in this country, that is gone.
Okay,
I'll probably emigrate to Madagascar or something.
The Reverend Dr. Allan Boesak. On the line, we're chatting his recent endorsement of Minister Lindiwe Sisulu as president of the ANC, and this call and interaction to understand exactly why. On my certainly radar, she doesn't come out as stand out. And Reverend Doctor, you've said that it is the political elite that has brought this country to its knees, that is at the heart of our woes. And Lindiwe Sisulu is part of that elite. So you're suggesting that she is part of it, but also not part of it.
Well, you see, the political elite are those who are not just in government, but those who control matters. There are lots of people in the African National Congress who vote in parliament. They're not necessarily part of the elite. There are lots of people, there are some people in cabinet whose names you don't even know. They are just there to fulfill some role, to vote, to fill a chair, to fill a portfolio. And their records are mostly abysmal. But it doesn't matter, because in the end, when push comes to shove, they vote on the right side. And so the elite are those who are in control, are those who determine the direction of the party. The elite are those who make sure that the very, very few, the 1%, so to speak, in the country benefits only from what the country has to offer. And whatever anyone may say, Lindiwe Sisulu is not part of that elite. I mean, you have to read the things that she has been saying from the beginning of this year, when she decided, now I will take the chance. It doesn't matter what happens to me. I will raise my hand and I will say, these are the reasons why. And why is it that it's not ordinary people who are attacking? It's the elite who are attacking her. It's those in control who are dead scared of what this woman might come and do as president, who are attacking her. And so, in a sense, she is within those circles. I don't think, and so I think she reckons that she has the better chance of running for president if she remains in the cabinet. The best she can do is to do the best in her portfolio, which I can see she is trying to do much better than most.
I want to posit that we don't need a new president, especially not necessarily from the political elite within the organization, that we need a viable opposition. Only a viable opposition will keep a governing party on track. And we need a principled left to perform that particular role. Not Lindiwe Sisulu or Cyril Ramaphosa, for that matter.
Well, I agree with you that these things are not mutually exclusive. Of course, you need a vibrant opposition, which we at the moment do not have, even though I see now with the Pala thing boiling and boiling and boiling, there might be signs that the opposition is actually alive. That's one thing. We do need a credible and a viable left. You and I should sit down and talk what that term left still means in this country. I mean, you and I both grew up and fought alongside staunch communists who were as more left than Stalin.
I'm not Trotskyite anymore. I'm not a Trotskyite.
But today they are more capitalist than Joe Biden and Elon Musk. So let's not talk. We've got to talk about what is left. I do believe in a credible opposition. I want a vibrant, vital, fighting civil society. I want the churches to be back where we were in the 1970s and the 1980s, and not selling out to the establishment as we have done since 1994, and we have no prophetic voice anymore. But you have to have good government as well. Our system tells us if the ANC wins the next election, they will provide the president of the country. And then it is not enough just to have a good and viable opposition. You have to have leadership with vision and with principles that understands the politics of decency and honesty and courage and faith. And to my mind, Lindiwe Sisulu accomplishes all of that. She has that. If you look at the possible candidates that are being put forward and you compare them with one another, there ought to be really no doubt in your mind, Clarence. You're an intelligent young man. You know that the people that at the moment are trying to get the leadership of the ANC are not people that you or I, certainly, and let me not speak in your behalf, that I would ever vote for. And I would not encourage people to vote for them. I would, though, do so with Lindiwe Sisulu. And I think that good governance is absolutely crucial. An ANC with a different kind of leadership might find its way back, and the only chance I see is with Lindiwe Sisulu, and then we can have a proper working parliamentary system with accountability and with responsibility and with responsiveness. I'm hoping. Otherwise, my country is going down the drain even as we speak.
I think we must speak about that viable opposition as very important to our democratic project. And I put it to you also, Dr. Busak, that Tata Walter Sisulu and Ma Albertina Sisulu are turning in their grave. This is not the ANC that they've given their lives to. And I see their daughter as implicated in what this ANC has become. How do you respond to that?
Well, no, we have talked about that, and on all honesty, I can say, I have explained how patriarchal the ANC is. I have explained
and ageist too.
Oh yeah,
they're tired. We got to get some youth in there.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm a young man.
You look the part. You look the part. Some of those ANC politicians don't look the part. Can't get away with young man. You can.
No. Quite seriously. No, I do not think that the persons who present themselves as leaders right now, I think Albertina Sisulu, whose birthday was just the other day, will be turning in a grave, and so will Madiba, and so will all of those, Johnny Issel and Sissel Issel, all of those. I mean, when I buried Sissel Issel, I said one of the tragic things for me is that Sissel Issel did not die in the country that he fought for. And that's my pain as I look at my people. And I'm sitting here thinking, what is it that I can do to help my people understand and to help our country get closer to the goal that we fought for? And you don't see it in the Lindiwe Sisulu, and I honestly do not know why, but I do. And if the media would give her just a fair chance, if they would just report one speech properly that she has made or that she is making, if they would just look at the report that she got the clean audit for her department just the other day and make an issue out of that, if they would just see how this woman is working, maybe then they would get the opportunity to get an unbiased look at what she is achieving.
We've got a call in. Let's allow more people to be part of this conversation. Stuart in the City Bowl, you have a question for the Reverend Dr. Allan Boesak.
Yes, I do. And it really is so refreshing to have him back. And I find it heartwarming after those evil days of the 1970s to have him back and fighting and speaking out, this time on behalf of all South Africa, no matter which political party. So it really warms my heart and brings tears to my eyes to have him back. But one question I would like to ask him is, do you think the EFF is a very good opposition?
Whoa.
Well, thank you for those kind words. I really do appreciate it very much. The EFF is an essential for our opposition. We, in the opposition, we need the EFF. We can't just have the DA with its new liberal policies, which more and more sounds like the policies that Cyril Ramaphosa wants to pursue. We really do need a voice for those people who are the poorest of the poor. Sir, I was in Marikana yesterday, where I preached at the 10th anniversary of the massacre. It's a church that literally sits next in the bush next to a squatter camp. I preached to the poorest of the poor yesterday. My heart was broken to think we have a president who 10 years ago promised them that he would come and talk to them. He hasn't gone there up till this day to look the orphans and the widows in the eye to say, I'm so sorry, will you please forgive me? What can I do to make right? Now, and that's the problem, that it is the EFF who speaks on behalf of those people. Julius Malema mentions Marikana, not the other politicians. And that is whatever you may think of the EFF, they represent a constituency. Also, don't forget, they represent a very young constituency. On the campuses, it is the EFF who has the greatest representatives of all of our student representative council. So those are the young people who will be voting in 2024 and who will be voting when you and I certainly are no longer on the scene. And so what we must do is we must ask, is it true that South Africa's alternative is this that we have right now, or the extremist politics that the EFF represents? Is it possible, is it just possible for us to bring back the kind of politics that we had, that we tasted in our mouths and that we felt in our hands in the 1960s and the 1970s and the 1980s? And I think yes, it's possible. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today.
Well, you were the one that were speaking about the champagne socialists a short while ago. I'm surprised you give the EFF so much credit, Dr. Busak, but that's not my question. My question is the nature of... Was that a dig? My question is the nature of Slade politics and the quid pro quo. You know there's millions of rands of black bags that goes to people who vote in a certain line. That's come through. So there's quid pro quo. Is there quid pro quo with this unequivocal endorsement of Lindiwe Sisulu? Do we see you in her cabinet if she should win?
Me in a cabinet? No, Guru, I'm done with that. No, I will not. No. I told you, I will not go serve in a cabinet. My days for serving in cabinet and having those interminable meetings. I can't sit through a church meeting these days anymore. Well, never mind a cabinet meeting. I will, however, from where I am on the sidelines, continue to offer my prayers and my support, and if she needs it, my advice. But that's where you should look for me.
So clearly, this support is not strategic for you. It is not. It is really from your heart. You actually believe these things you say about her.
I do, because I've seen it. I mean, I don't believe what people say about others in the media. And that is why I never said a single word until I've come to know Lindiwe Sisulu better. So when the two of us sit and talk and I look her in the eyes and we discuss politics and we discuss just ordinary things, that is what has convinced me. Not just the fact that I worked so well with her mother, or that I knew her father, or their reputation. She is a person in her own right. And I say again, I'm looking at a person who, with the right people around her, can change the fate of our country around. I think she is.
The Reverend
I
Doctor.
see you smiling. You don't believe me, right?
You know, this is such a tough moment that I've arrived at. It's the first time I don't agree with you. In fact, vehemently disagree. But it's been such a privilege chatting with you. It's appreciated. Thank you very much for joining us and shedding some light on your thinking about Lindiwe Sisulu. It's appreciated. Lots of good health, my chief. Take care, huh? Okay.
Thank you very much. God bless you. And thank you to the listeners as well.
God bless you too. God bless you too, Reverend Dr. Allan Boesak.